stuff. This was a video that he released yesterday. That bring back any memories about Thompson Ford? And
Yeah,
that's how I got the name of the.
I always thought it was not Thompson Ford, but Collins Ford or something. That's what I thought.
Later, when he is convicted, and this is what was confusing to me. I am a paralegal, but this is confusing the way this went down.
Let me see.
Yeah, he was.
That's the chart. That's my charge sheet.
Yeah, there's your signature, man.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder if I can find Al Espanoza.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's like it was meant to happen. Because this needs to be stopped. Whenever I've got a choice between a registered sex offender and a victim, I'll pick the victim every single time. And that's where we're at here. Where he's basically re-victimized.
Have you ever got a chance to recontact the?
That's my next step. I want to see where this goes today, get the feel of it, and then talk to David back in San Antonio and see where he wants to go with it. You know, there's a good chance that some of our audio may be used on Texas Public Radio.
Okay.
So that one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Gets convicted by a jury. Now he'll tell you the story he's got out in the public is he never had a jury trial. He just pled for his wife and children's sake to an affair.
I know I didn't testify.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't called to court, so I don't know what the deal. I can't remember.
Well, it went down. He was definitely convicted.
Yeah.
And so that was number one conviction. Okay. Then they came through and they convicted him of the unauthorized, and that name right there. That's probably the owner or the manager or somebody associated with the dealership, one of them. But that was his conviction where he pled. So he's already been convicted by a jury. Then he pleads guilty to this. But they give him shock probation. Okay.
Why?
I don't know. Well, because
I know. You know what I remember?
Yeah.
He had a shyster of an attorney, because when I had warrants on him, the attorney, when I had that warrant, the attorney was hiding them.
Is that right?
Yeah, me and the.
Why would you do that?
Well, I don't know. I went to his house.
Mm-hmm.
He actually lived in Houston, but just right outside of
Telephone Road or something.
Yeah, just right outside of Pasadena. I think it was actually Allen.
He's got a couple addresses from the
it
records.
was. It's like, here's Richie, and then right after that is Houston, and he lived on the Houston side. His father wouldn't let us come in the house to look for him. He was outside watering the yard, working on the yard. And we could have got in because the warrant was in his address, or under his address. But we chose not to because his father was elderly.
Yeah.
He's probably like in his 70s, and he was wanting to fight.
Yeah.
So he said, you know what? I mean, we don't want to hurt this guy, and he may not be in the house anyway.
Right.
So I knew where his attorney's office was.
I just want to get the age correct. David was about 23, 24, right? When you were.
He was young. I know that. Yeah, real young.
Well,
his father was a lot older.
On July 4th, 1985, he would have been 2 months shy of his 24th birthday.
Okay.
Based on the birthday.
I just remember he was young.
Yeah.
And he was working as a security officer, security guard, working at night for these dealerships at Ritchie and 225. And he was working the night shift. And so he used that opportunity to be your classic, predator. He was out looking for young ladies driving late at night, and then he would stop them act like a police officer, but he was wearing a security guard uniform in a white car with, you know,
Did it have
overhead,
lights?
yeah,
Did
it
it
had
have
overheads and
I wondered
stuff.
how he managed
Yeah.
to get them to stop.
Right, and then he would handcuff them, put them in his car, take them somewhere, or he may have, I can't remember real clearly, but he may have gotten in the car with the victim and, you know, taken them behind a building or something like that. I
So-
think that's what my memories tell me.
Yeah, yeah. What?
How long ago is this? This is 85?
85.
It's a long time. I mean,
It is. It's
how long is that? I don't have enough fingers and toes to figure it out.
that's 15, 20. That's 30 years.
Yeah, 30
Just
years.
about 30 years. And I guess you were a sergeant. I don't. What was your areas of responsibility back?
Well,
in
I was
85?
working general assignment back then. Detectives weren't so specialized as they are now.
I gotcha.
So I
Kind
can
of
work.
whatever.
Yeah. Excuse me. I can work a robbery one day, or I can be working a homicide the next day.
A
Rape
Yeah.
one day.
Serial rape.
Yeah. So yeah, we did it all back then,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we were
Do you
a little bit more.
do you know where the unauthorized vehicle came from, or how that played into it? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Was it just the security vehicle that he was using for
Well,
unauthorized activities? Obviously.
He probably he had access to all the extra keys to those car dealerships. I mean,
Yeah.
those car dealerships at the time, they were maybe a block long with a bunch of cars, and then another, you know, couple of blocks back in deep. I mean, it wasn't no 50 car lot. I mean, they had maybe 100 something cars.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of Ritchie and 225 off of Shaw Street, there was another car dealership, and it went deep. So you were at least talking about 100 cars over there. So he had access to all these brand new cars that were just parked out there.
And that was his assignment. Was just to patrol.
Yeah, he
the
just
parking
would.
lots.
Yeah, and it was only like a 2 or 3 block little square, you know, assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure he got bored after a while,
Yeah.
because and he may not have had the character and stuff to be a police officer, but he was a lot smarter than your average, you know, kid security guard.
Yeah.
He was a planner.
Yeah. Let me just play you this because it's an interesting moment in this video. He's chatting. This is a state trooper. And now he's going to tell him he's an ex-cop.
So you'll have to generate a report and send it over to the fusion center.
That's David talking.
All the stuff that you do. So your next step is what? Can I get your name? And how many times have you been through this? I'm also an ex-cop. Oh yeah? Yeah. For what department? Not for a department. One time I worked for federal law enforcement. Federal? FBI, DEA, ATF. Best if I don't say. Secret Service? Keep warmer? Best if I don't say.
So to your knowledge,
He's full of crap. Yeah.
Actually, no.
He was a wannabe cop. That was his deal. But he didn't have the moral character to be a police
Yeah.
officer.
I guess at 23, it's possible, and this is my thinking, is he got out of high school, joined the military. Could have been an MP, maybe?
Possible.
I
Possible.
mean, could that be where he's getting this? I was a federal agent.
Yeah. I mean, that's possible, but I could tell back then he was he was a security guard who wanted to go further into law enforcement.
Yeah.
But for some reason he,
I'm sure you'll have that up here.
you know, he had maybe a sex addiction, maybe he was a
I'm trying to find the statute that they were
just
talking about.
just a plain sociopath.
Yeah.
What statute they're
'Cause
quoting?
I get,
Can you pull the statute?
all my reading tells me that these guys are not
Click
actually
him on it and see what he
in it for the sex, so to speak. It's the power. It's the
Power,
control.
control, yeah.
And if he's using handcuffs,
statute.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, he's definitely
Don't
Yeah.
break the law.
down that
Pull the
path.
statute and says, I can't be here and take photographs.
So, but you are unaware,
Statute.
at least up until his
Yeah,
arrest of him being
yeah, I
a
don't
federal
even,
agent.
right, no, I never heard of that. And to be honest with you, I'm not even too sure he was in the military. I never got that.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to fill the gap.
No,
you
I
know?
never ran across that information that he was an ex-military.
Yeah, so yeah, he was born in 1961. He would have been 23 and 10 months on July 4th when he raped
Yeah.
the person he was convicted of raping.
He was born in 61.
61.
Huh. I'm only 3 years older than him, so he's about 57.
Yeah, I'm about 3 years younger than him. So that ain't. I remember those years. I remember 85, 86. We had 8 tracks in our cars still, some of
Yeah.
us. There were no cell phones.
Right.
So these ladies were in big trouble
Right.
getting pulled over.
Oh yeah, no,
Park
yeah,
Highway.
they did. They were at the mercy of the person who was stopping them.
Yeah. Well, here's the way it worked out for David, and I'll just say it on camera so that he got shot probation. Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's stunning, especially with the second prosecution, felony prosecution. So he's got 2 felonies, and he's on shock probation. Well, he didn't take the break he got. He ends up with carrying a weapon into a licensed, I guess it could have been a bar, somewhere where they had an alcohol license.
Yeah, I'm sure he had access to weapons because he was a security guard.
Yeah, but he's a double felon. This is one of
But
the
he's-
interesting things. And the next,
But he's a sociopath. See?
Yes.
He doesn't think the rules apply to him.
yeah,
He's above it all.
he got 5 years in penitentiary for that. The way they
So he got shock probation for this rape.
For the
with
rape?
an armed weapon. And
aggravated sexual assault.
yeah. You know, back then what the district attorneys would tell us as detectives is that, okay, we're going to take the best case we got and
Run with it.
run with it, and then during the punishment phase, we'll bring up the others that other rapes that he committed, and we'll enhance the punishment. So apparently, somewhere along the line, the ball got dropped, and they just offered him shock probation.
Well, they got beat up with this motion because that motion keeps all that information out of the trial. That's what that motion is about for David. I mean, that's David's motion. That's his attorney filing that paper saying, hey, that part about David raping those other women, that part about David having a stolen car, that part about David's brother, when you're making the arrest of David and David's brother pulls up in the unauthorized vehicle while the arrest is going down,
Wow.
none of that can come into the trial. Okay, so that's the
He had a
motion.
good attorney and a liberal judge. That's all I got to say.
That something was going on there because, well, he had no previous felonies. So I think the rule was then you can give them probation if it's their first felony. I think that was the thinking, at the time. Which is interesting if he would have been tried for the unauthorized vehicle and then he had gotten tried on the second one, it would have been different. You'd have had a felony and there would be no shock probation available.
Yeah, and, but any good detective or investigator would know that this guy here is very capable of committing a homicide because they graduate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They slowly but surely they get more aggressive, more controlling, less sympathetic there's no empathy for the victim at all.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, David's.
I mean, we won't ever know this, but back then, in my mind, I knew this guy would graduate one day and commit a homicide if he ever got out in the public.
Yeah.
And I know we have a lot of cases that are unsolved.
Right.
You know, rapes that become eventual homicides. All I know is I knew back then this guy was a dangerous person.
Yeah.
And I'm just like.
And you saw the victims? I mean, you talked to the victims? Took the reports?
I took the reports and stuff and talked to them. But back then, you know, 30 years, I can't remember.
I was going to say, do you remember anything similar? What was his MO? You know, I mean, he's sitting out there at the parking lot and or running around in his patrol car like he's a cop.
Well, you know, at the time, when we got these cases, we knew somebody was running around Houston and Pasadena, which if you go about a mile further down Ritchie, you'll cross into Houston.
Right.
We're, you know,
totally different jurisdiction.
Yeah, we're right on the border. And I remember I spoke with Houston detectives and our detectives, and we had someone going around this area pretending to be a police officer, stopping young ladies by themselves at night, late at night, right after the bars close, right after 2 a.m., pretending to be a police officer, handcuffing them, and then using his gun to force sex on the victims. And then, like, he was in love with that gun, too. I mean, he would, you know, use the gun, put it in the mouth, put it in, you know, up the vagina and stuff like that. He had a fetish with his gun. And so, I just kind of remembered it, you know. I said, this guy is going to one day pull that gun and pull the trigger.
Or something's going to go wrong.
Or something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
The girl's going to try to kick it out of his hands, or so I had a sense of urgency of finding this guy and getting off the street because I thought I was going to prevent a homicide.
Yeah.
You know, and to come to this and, you know, shock probation, you can't get none of all that other stuff in the trial, and I'm telling you, this guy's a classic sociopath.
Yeah.
Classic.
Well, he did himself in.
Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of he didn't get the idea that, you know what, I got a pretty special deal. Mm-hmm. He continued to act like a fool. Yeah. And carried a gun into a bar or somewhere where it was illegal to carry it in. Got 5 years for that. Got out of jail or out of prison. Immediately gets another weapons charge.
Yeah, he's got a fetish for guns, doesn't he?
He does apparently have a fetish for guns. I'm pro Second Amendment. I believe that you should have the right to protect yourself.
Yeah. But not a felon.
Not a felon.
They lose those rights.
Yeah. He goes around carrying black powder guns because they don't qualify as weapons. And what's funny is he goes through Border Patrol checkpoints and refuses to identify himself as a citizen. Okay. And then they immediately, they'll eventually take him away, take him out of his car, and they search his car. And the last time he did that out in Laredo, they seized one of his black powder weapons. And so he had to go back to Laredo about a week ago or so to get his gun back from the ATF in Laredo. Which it's amazing to me that they give him his gun back knowing his record, knowing his history. Right. But it seems like, I guess this black powder thing is the way to go for these guys, What a great... that's why I find it interesting that you say he had a real gun fetish. Because he was he had that little pistol when he picked it up from Laredo, because he broadcasts all of this stuff, and he broadcasted the fact that he had he got his Ruger back. He literally held it up to his heart, his little Ruger, whatever, not Ruger, it's what he called it, or I guess I don't recall what it was, but the only way you can be doing that is with black powder weapons, because he's a multiple felon, registered sex offender. You know, that's what this guy's doing. And
to be honest with you,
so 5 and 5. He ended up in jail in the penitentiary for 10 years. Even though, I mean, he eventually he got that 10 years.
He should have been given a lot of time on the rapes way back here. Like I said, if I was back in detectives and I had an unsolved homicide and it had to do with rape, and I knew he was out of jail, I'd be looking for him. I'd want to talk to him and see where he's been the last, during the period of this hypothetical homicide. Yeah. This guy is very capable of committing a murder and trying to outsmart the cops, and he's a very dangerous guy. I'm surprised he's out on the streets. Really.
He's very. He has, I think I checked yesterday, 85,000 subscribers to his channel. 85,000 people, and they think he's just
wonderful.
He's a fantastic man. Yeah. I did too, in terms of watching him go through. I've been following this movement. I've been following this movement and watching these guys and their tactics as they've created them, because it is a completely new movement, and it's very interesting to me how it's going down and how they bring their force upon a small city, like a Leon Valley or an Almost Park, where I covered the story there, and it was very, the police department was out of control in terms of. They had a no carry law in Almost Park, so you couldn't open carry in the city there, which was obviously illegal in Texas now. And this group came down upon them, and it started with the First Amendment and guys. They discovered that they had a problem in Almost Park, and then the Second Amendment guys came in, open carry Texas. Eventually, they had almost 1,000 people. In their town, a little tiny Almost Park. So I
wonder what's going to happen to his following when they find out that basically he's not
we did a little
very
test.
Good person.
We did a little test. We released the charging document just to see what people would say, and of course we got this is probably not a real document excuse. This is somebody who doesn't like David, or it's the cops.
Right.
This is a lie. David was a nice guy, because David's cover story, there's been a couple cover stories, okay? The first one was he's 19, she was 17. Her dad didn't like the fact that David was dating her, and that's why he ended up in trouble. Was that 19, 17-year-old thing. And I said to myself, well, I'm a paralegal in Texas, and I know that if you're 19, you can sleep with a 16-year-old legally, and there's no charge. You go to 15, you're in trouble, but that 3-year thing is in effect in Texas.
Right.
So I knew that couldn't be the case, and so later, just this last week, and this is what's weird. Okay, there's a fella named he's an ex-police chief, at least he says he is. I don't know. I haven't verified his background.
Yeah.
I take that back. He said that he was a Texas Ranger also in the 80s. So I called the Texas Rangers Department of Human Services Resources, and they can't find any record of him. But anyway, I know he was an Alabama cop and a Florida cop, or somewhere over there on the East Coast. But he came out last week, 2 weeks ago, and this is sort of what said, okay, this is when I said, this is it. I'm going to track down the file. Because he told a story about how David had an affair, and the woman screamed rape after, and David came to Jesus and pled guilty to save his family the embarrassment, and what's more is the only reason David is now registered as a sex offender is because of his First Amendment work. that he's doing, okay? Because apparently, I think that's sort of true, okay? Because I think he had a police contact, and I think the police said, "How come you're not registered? You know, you're supposed to be registered."
Reminded him, yeah.
Yeah, and this was like 2 to 3 years ago when
Yeah.
he first started registering. My reading of the Texas law is in 2005, they passed retroactivity. So anybody who had been convicted of one of the crimes that fall under that statute from 1970 till then had to register.
Yeah, and this was an aggravated sexual assault, so he would fall under the category of a lifetime registration.
Lifetime registration is required for 22.0011 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't
the
know
actual
the exact
charge.
number.
Yeah,
But
that's,
all I know is I wouldn't want this guy living next door to me.
yeah.
Now, if all his friends think he's a wonderful guy, you know,
He's their friends.
and, yeah, he's their friends. Let him live next door to them, but
I would
he
have
needs
to.
to stay out of
I would
our
think
city.
that rational people, when they know the truth and just how deceptive this guy was, not just back then, but how deceptive he's being now about the facts behind this. And when I released that charging document, I was very honest. I said, "David, this is your chance, you know, to come clean, to just explain what happened for real, you know, and not to continue the misinformation, you know."
Right.
And his message to me, he doesn't know who I am. I released it all anonymously, you know, just to test the water. You know, that was what we decided to do. That was the way to try to draw him out. And when I say we, I'm talking about my journalist buddies here in Austin with me, you know, the guys who do this stuff. And we just wanted to see what he would say or how he would react when the truth was out. And to know that we really know, that we really went to the file and we pulled his charging document. It's no longer, there's no doubt that we are smart enough to know where the truth lies. And he should have figured it out. In my mind, you know, he must think he's just that much ahead of us. We're that much smarter.
He does. No,
he's stuck too.
No, he's a classic, you know, sociopath. He thinks he's smarter, and he can outsmart. I don't think he knows the truth if it hit him square in the head.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of other skeletons in his closet that police agencies don't know about. All I know is, now that I know he's out on the street trying to be somebody, if we have any cold cases to look at, he'd be a good suspect. And we should have, I don't know, but we should have, now that he's a registered sexual offender, there should be some DNA on file with him.
Do they have to provide a specimen? That's what I wondered. And that was one of my questions here was, do we have any evidence stored from the original cases? You know, is there any physical evidence that might be susceptible to future?
I'd have to look into it, but I suspect there may be.
Specifically, the ladies who were never gotten justice for.
Right,
previous.
because there were some ladies that would not be able to identify him because of the trauma. But if you had DNA left over, that would be really
How did the
good deal.
How did the witness who that he was convicted of assaulting? How did she recognize him, or how did she? How clear was she on who did this?
You know, if I remember correctly, my case, the victims, one of the victims that I showed my photo lineup to, we actually did a actual physical lineup that you would do like on television. Anyway, my victims were all sent to that lineup, and then Houston had a victim, you know, there.
This lady here, probably.
Probably. I think she's the one who identified. She, no, the there was a victim who identified someone else, and I filed charges on that person. Another detective later on got another case, and she filed. She identified him on his case. I think the detective was Ralph McInich. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We had multiple victims and multiple detectives working on it.
Do you think you had multiple assailants running around doing this?
No, I just the one in Houston, the case that the lady identified really didn't fit this.
The same MO.
The same MO, but I know back then it was very unusual to have stranger on stranger sexual assaults.
Yeah.
But man, I'd have to go back and read the report. I know I got a warrant. I got a warrant for him on a photo lineup.
Mm-hmm. And that would have been the one who was prosecuted?
Probably so.
Yeah, yeah. Just wondering how we get to David. You know what I mean? How did we get to David besides just the photo line? How did we make David a suspect to start with? If you can recall.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was general knowledge that we had we knew the car was a white car. Back then, Pasadena police cars, because the ladies thought that the guy was actually a police officer.
I remember white police cars.
Yeah, but our cars at the time were mostly what we call Colombian green, and then we started changing the color scheme to like a dark blue on the newer cars. We never really, here in Pasadena, we never really had a white car.
Yeah.
And we knew it was someone who, so, yeah, like I'm going just by memory, but I think we knew that there was a guy out there at 225 and Richie who worked as a security guard, driving a white car with overhead lights and stuff on. Yeah. And so I went out there and got his name and stuff like that, got his DL photo, and all of a sudden he started acting guilty. He called my lawyer, things like that. So just based on his reaction, I knew I was going down the right path. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for right now, I mean, there may have been something else I can't remember, but I got onto him real quick.
Well, maybe when you get back from Alaska, you might see if there's any evidence somewhere sitting that could be DNAable. I would just to see if there's a case out there that could be made. Cold case that can be closed.
Yeah. For
these ladies to get some justice. Cause
right.
I think David has gotten away with a
lot more than we will ever know.
I think so, and it's a shame. I didn't come looking for a sex offender. Well, I knew he was a sex offender, and I knew that the stories just didn't jive.
Right.
Because of what I know about the way you register, how you register, why you register. There ain't no cop who could make me, because I have a First Amendment. I go out and do a First Amendment work. He can't make me register as a sex offender under any circumstances. So it's just a silly, silly argument that I don't know why he would make it or put it out there or imply it, because he's implied it several times. The only reason I'm a registered sex offender is because I'm doing all this hard work for you guys. I'm your First Amendment protector, your Second Amendment protector. He doesn't have a Second Amendment right as a multiple felon.
Well, it's kind of strange, though. He stays out of Pasadena, doesn't he?
I was going to say, I noticed he hasn't got any films from your town.
Yeah.
Nothing here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he was so close at Deer Park.
Right.
And you did get a call, didn't you?
I did get a call from Assistant Chief Sharon Massey. And I don't know how she found out I had this case, because, but her and I was, actually, she came here she was in the same police academy as I was, 79. But she left here and went to Deer Park, but I don't know how she found out that I worked this case, but I remember pulling up my, making copies for her, putting it in an envelope and giving it to her. And I never found out what exactly, she said that he was going out to the Shell refinery and causing problems out there. And so they wanted, like, what's the deal with this guy?
Yeah.
Apparently,
background.
Yeah.
There's a background, yeah.
Apparently he's been able to cover his trail. Because, like I said, this is the first time I was presented.
This is what's interesting, okay? And I guess I want your opinion. I think it was a shyster move on his lawyer's part. But he goes ahead and...
Do you remember the lawyer's name?
I've got it here on this motion.
I know he had an office in Pasadena.
It is
He was a...
Gabriel Nahas, Nahas,
Huh.
Jr. This guy replaced another lawyer.
Okay.
So probably pre-arrest, that's who you were dealing with.
Yeah.
And then even once he was arrested, this guy came in after and took over the case.
Right.
So, but when David is being pulled back in, and this was the 98 one, but also on that one, the 92 one, when he first gets rearrested, instead of referring to the rape conviction, you see how they started to use it as the justification?
Uh-huh.
And then they switch. And I think that was David's, I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
I think that was David's attorney saying, we'll plead on this one if you make the jacket on the unauthorized use of the vehicle. And I'm only thinking that means when you go to jail and they say, what you in for, you don't say, oh, I'm a serial rapist. Instead you say, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, I'm a car thief, or whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just for jail cred. I don't know. It just seems like a weird change to make. Because...
Well, you don't have to register as a car thief.
Yeah, there's...
You know, but if you're a rape guy, you have to be registered. And, you know, you're on the internet as a sexual predator. And his were aggravated, so he would be a lifetime registered. He could never get off of it. So, yeah, he didn't want to go down being a sex offender. And matter of fact, if you go into prison and you're a sex offender, and if you're like a pedophile, you're probably not going to survive very long in prison.
I feel like that was
Yeah.
the reasoning behind, we'll give you the conviction if you change his jacket. You know what I mean?
This deal happened in LaPorte, right?
He was not very bright. I mean, he just walked into 2 weapons charges over, and I mean, he just got out of, he just had to have gotten out of prison for the second one, you know? I don't know. I think if you get a really good break and you get shot probation, you clean your life up. I don't know. I guess if you're
Yeah.
deranged, then you don't. And you keep playing with those guns that you love.
Yeah.
Because that's shocking what you said about the weapons and his use of the weapons during the actual assault. I appreciate your time. I will let you.
I hope I helped.
You did. Just could you do one thing?
Yes.
As silly as this sounds, just say, I'm Al Espanoza, Chief of Police of Pasadena, and I was the person who investigated David Worden. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just right on the camera?
Just who you are and what you did.
I'm Al Espanoza, Chief of Pasadena Police Department. And in 1985, I was a sergeant detective in detectives, and I was the detective who investigated David Earl Worden for sexual aggravated assault, who was a suspect in many sexual assault cases, but we were only able to file on one case. But I know that Earl Worden is a sexual predator, and I'm sure there are many bones in his, or skeletons in his closet. So
Perfect. That's, and I totally think that if there's any evidence out there still remaining that could be tested. I don't know what they did back then. You know, I don't know if they had rape kits or if
they had rape kits, and they swabbed the semen and stuff like that.
Did they? In '85?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they did all that.
Yeah.
But
If
DNA didn't start getting on the scene until like the 90s.
Yeah.
And then like it wasn't until like 2013 or so that we had to have DNA swabs of all our sexual offenders.
Yeah.
And they now they have all this DNA stuff on a computer data program.
So if let's say I made a FOIA type request and said, is there any evidence in these cases, so to speak, could I force your guys' hand to look in your locker? I
don't know if we have the documents. We should have the.
I don't really want any documents. I just want to know if there's any evidence.
Yeah,
that could be checked. You know, that's all.
We would have to go look.
Yeah.
And we're right in the middle of. For a long time, we had this software program called Tiburon, it's a computer that took care of our software program, took care of our computer assisted dispatching, our records management, our jail, our property evidence stuff. We switched over to a new program, a better program of it was called OSSI, but it was bought by Superion. Anyway, so like May 8th was a switch over, and we're still like in the process of converting all our records over and stuff like that. And we still have some glitches here and there.
Yeah.
So we probably won't be like glitch free for another 6 months to a year.
I got you.
So finding a lot of this stuff is kind of hard. Yeah. But I will call the lieutenant over investigations and see if we do have any old cases that go back to '85 where this guy fits this MO.
Shot probation, so he's never gone away. From '85 to '92, he was in the area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I saw that he was in the report on the last weapons charge.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in '92 he went to jail for 5 years. He got out, went right back to jail for another weapons charge. So from '92 to 2002, basically, he was in a penitentiary in Texas. Okay, supposedly.
From '92.
From what I tell from the records,
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact, but I know that they said they put him in jail, in prison.
Right.
So it would be from '92 to 2002 where he's not on the streets, but anytime from '85 to '92 or '84, '83 to '92, that's the window of his operational capabilities in your area.
Let me give you one of my cards.
Oh, excellent.
It has my email on it and stuff like that. That phone number goes directly to mine.
Gotcha.
And I'm gonna see if I can get any case numbers on some of this.
And I know that motion does name the case number here.
Okay. Let me.
And I think that's going to probably be the one that you said was the Houston case. 'Cause
Yeah.
it mentions a detective out of Houston.
Okay, that's a cause number. Yeah. That's the county court law case number, but our case numbers would start off like 85 dash something.
Gotcha. I think
That's okay.
Yeah, that's their file number. That's.
Where's his date of birth on here?
I know it's on these. Here it is, right here. 9/1961. And I actually have, if I can find my phone that just went off. I have.
Wouldn't it be great if we could find some old cases on him?
It would be wonderful, and I don't mean that because I'm just out to get him, but I just.
You hate to see people get away with stuff.
Yeah, and I hate to see re-victimization because, in my opinion, that's what he's doing by putting out these fake stories about his past that he's able to.
I noticed somebody showed me a YouTube thing, and I noticed he has a partner, a lady friend that was on the video with him.
Yes, her name is Teresa Richards, and she's a very nice lady.
Yeah.
Very nice, and I've met her, and I actually, she's on my Facebook, and I feel so bad because I know she's friends with him, and she's not going to like me soon.
Are they like boyfriend, girlfriend, or are they just friends?
We're all told it's just friendship. It's just they're just working together on this stuff. She's a government accountability person in Louisiana.
Okay.
And she goes around. They traveled across the country together.
They look close. Yeah, it looked more than.
I questioned it too, but I'm told they're just friends, you know. But I also know that she has a grandbaby, and I don't know what she knows. She's smart enough and knows the system enough to go look at the file. You know what I mean? So
that's what I'm saying. She's probably likes the guy that she's in denial, and she doesn't want to find the truth.
That is a document that had all his information on it. I don't know what you need, but it had all his. I don't know if there's anything on there you need or not. His social security number, driver's license number, it's all on there.
That's a Texas deal, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would think so. Probably the same number he's using today. Yeah, I made pictures and then I said, well, I'll get these copied. And I went up there and they said, well, with your press credentials, you don't have to pay nothing. I thought, God, if I'd have known that. I just said, this file, that file.
Yeah. I can get our case number. I know I did it once before. Mm-hmm. And then I found out that a lot of the microfilm stuff was sent out to get scanned. And the scanning company,
Classic story. This is a classic
I don't know what
story.
they damaged it somehow.
Right. They've screwed up the originals too, right? Somehow. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I don't know what the period was, what year.
Right. It's like a fire at the courthouse.
Yeah.
We don't have anything from 1973 to 1976. It's all gone.
Yeah. Well, I hope I helped you out.
Oh, you helped me out immensely. Just cover the details, confirm the documents, because he'll never confirm any of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just in complete denial that any of this really happened, that he was ever even tried. You know, he pled guilty to his charge.
Well, whatever write-up you do or something. I'm really interested.
Yeah, and it will be probably a bit of a, if TPR goes with it, Texas Public Radio, because they are following this group and this story, and they're not out to get David, okay, but it's a facet of it.
Yeah.
You know, that this movement, you got to be careful, because there was another sex offender in California that was associated with this movement, and the movement drummed him out properly. You know what I mean? They said,
they weeded him out.
Yeah, you're not going to be part of this.
Well, yeah. Why would you want someone like that to represent you?
Well, and also, if you think about what these guys are doing, right? Let's say we're working together, like Teresa and David work together. You know, I'm out there. Let's say I'm filming, and the cops come and try to hem me up, and give me a hard time. And then the cop says, "Oh, well, you're out here with this guy who's a registered sex offender. Yeah. You know who this guy is, and you're here. What's your background?"
Yeah.
I'm like, that is not the guy I want
Right.
to be associated with when I'm in
Well,
an
you
interaction
know,
with a
there's
police
a
officer.
there's a Spanish saying: "You tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are."
No, there's the saying that I told my kids was, or especially my boy, was, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future."
Yeah, that's true too.
That was
yeah.
that was the one that he hates that
Right.
because I just
Yeah,
that was the way I raised him.
Yeah.
You know, he thinks I hate all his friends, and I would take no, just the sketchy ones.
yeah.
Just
Or what's the
cool.
other one? And, I mean, I heard a lot of people say if you lay with dogs, you're gonna get fleas.
There you go.
Stuff like that. But I mean, there's a lot of truth in all that. You know, our grandparents were smart people.
Well, wisdom is wisdom for a reason.
That's
you
right.
know? Well, very good.
All right.
And,
I'm sorry, my memory is not as good as it once was.
well, I am amazed
Uh-huh.
that you were here. I mean, I thought.
You thought I'd be dead and buried, huh?
Well, I didn't think you'd be dead, but I thought a sergeant in '85. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
That
the
could
truth
be-
not be known, I made sergeant real young. I was,
Yeah. Well, you had to have.
yeah.
You had to.
I was probably 23 going on 25.
Yeah.
Or 24. Mm-hmm. I was born in 58. I got promoted in 1983 to sergeant detective. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think I was one of the youngest detectives promoted.
I just realized. Did I push record?